Hello and good morning everyone, it's X from A2UK and thanks for joining us for today's webinar, What's New in Inventor 2022. Applications Engineer John Pitcher will be presenting for us today. So before we start, we'll just go through about A2UK. We're all about fostering innovation through consulting and training. A2UK Technologies plays a vital role in helping the infrastructure, building, mining, construction, architecture and manufacturing industries reach their full potential by delivering complete technology solutions and support services such as education and consulting. We work with visionaries to shape the future of design and in turn enable them through innovation to minimize risks, improve productivities and achieve excellence. A2K Technologies is considered the business partner of choice and trusted advisor by vendors and clients. We partner with major software and hardware vendors to meet our clients' technology needs. We strive to exceed client expectations by pinpointing their challenges and delivering solutions through experience and innovation. We work with clients and companies of any size nationally and abroad. Over to you, John.
Thanks for that intro, and welcome along, everybody. It's great to have you with us today to chat over some of the new features of the Inventor 2022 release. So I do hope that everybody's well and keeping safe in these rather unusual times. So yeah, as Dexter mentioned, my name is John Pitcher, and it's my pleasure to be presenting for you today. Just to introduce myself, my background is in manufacturing. I've been involved in various aspects of mechanical engineering, including machine tool design, hydraulics and pneumatics, and CNC programming. I'm currently working with A2K Technologies as an applications engineer, mainly focused in the mechanical space. And for the past 15 years, I've been directly involved in the Autodesk product line, training AutoCAD, Inventor, Fusion, and more recently, I've been dabbling a little bit in the additive manufacturing or 3D printing space. So that's just a little bit about myself. So just a bit of a rundown on what we hope to cover today. So for the next 30 or 40 minutes, what I'll be looking at doing is explaining for you some of the new aspects of the 2022 release of Inventor. And as we've mentioned in many of our other webinars, Autodesk Inventor includes quite an impressive array of functionalities aimed at designers and engineers, giving us the edge to get our concepts and designs and products into a state suitable for market release in the shortest possible time frame. So the 2022 release has seen a number of new features. One of the major ones that we'll be chatting about as we go through today is the new model state functionality. This is quite an interesting change to what we used to call representations and level of detail. Autodesk have switched that over a little, and we'll be chatting about that as we go through. There's a number of other new features as well, quite a number of interoperability features. So we'll be talking about a number of those aspects as well with regard to working between Inventor and Revit. And there's another link now to Fusion. So Autodesk have linked Inventor and Fusion to make that workflow a little smoother as well. So I'll briefly look at some of those enhancements and general performance upgrades as well. So let's dive right in. Basically, with the new release, the Inventor development team have been working industriously to connect your workflows. As always, these improvements and enhancements are driven by you through the feedback community, which is called Inventor Ideas. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that, but I might pop the link to that Inventor Ideas area where you can go and vote on things that might be included in the next release. So Autodesk take on board those voting processes if you'd like to see something included, and you can certainly do that at the Inventor Ideas page. So there's a website for that, and you can see suggestions that have been put up for potential inclusion in the following release. So this year, Autodesk have focused on new ways of managing various parts and assemblies that are similar to each other. Like I said, with that model states functionality. There's also been working hard on continued development for those interoperability options, as I mentioned before. So interoperability between Inventor, Revit, and perhaps most importantly for us engineering type, the linkage between Inventor and Fusion 360. I know some of you are using the Fusion 360 functionality as a CAM system, and this is certainly a good thing. Certainly some great little functions in Fusion 360 if you're interested in CAM and CNC design. Certainly some good little tools there. There's also a number of other productivity and performance items, and they're always high on Autodesk priority list, obviously, to get things to function in a more appropriate way. And we'll be certainly talking about some of those new options with 2022 as well. So we've basically divided this up into sort of 3 sections, I guess. First up, like I said, we're going to be talking a bit about model states and the way that they behave, and how we can separate out manufacturing operations, dimensional variations, and simplified representations of models all in the one part file. So a little bit like some of you may have done before with iParts, we've now got this functionality built into what we call this model states functionality. So within an assembly, we can create multiple representations of an assembly within a single document, and obviously manage variations to assembly configurations and other model simplification tools that, like I said, used to be called our level of details. So level of details has now been moved off into this model states sort of functionality. So in the 2022 release, you won't find level of detail options. You'll find a replacement for that called model states. With regard to the interoperability functionality, we can now collaborate on BIM projects with some improvements to tools that simplify the native Revit project file in Inventor, and as I said, the Fusion to Inventor link. With regard to some of the productivity and performance options, we've got an increased performance across a number of the different scenarios. Autodesk have changed the installation and deployment sort of functionality, I guess, and really the concept of that is to make that a more streamlined workflow. So deployments, as some of you may be aware, are now able to be created directly from within your Autodesk account, and we'll dig a bit further into that a little later on. A couple of other things with regard to drawing enhancements, and again, quite a number of enhancements here with regard to camera views and manufacturing information. Lighting styles from your 3D model can now be included in 2D drawing views. So if you've set up a lighting style that particularly highlights certain faces or edges of your model and you want to see that on a 2D drawing sheet, we can now use those lighting styles from the 3D model and carry them forward into our 2D drawing views in the IDW or DWG environment. Yeah, so a number of different options there with regard to some performance enhancements as well. So first up, I'd like to, as I mentioned, drill down a little on the model states functionality. It's a completely new workflow that enables us to create multiple representations of parts or assemblies within a single document to provide a convenient way to engineer, manage, and manufacture our designs with different dimensions or parameters, different components or properties or simplification tools. Because variations exist in one file, there's no need to worry about breaking associative links. And I'm sure we've all come across challenges with regard to associative links over the years, and that's something that this tool is designed to help and resolve. So model states can be used for any of the following. So we could use this for machining operations. So if we've got a part that we cast or something like that, and then machine some surfaces, or maybe as per the image there, we fabricate a bracket out of numerous pieces of material, we can have an unmachined state within our model, and then we can have a machine state, all within the one part file. So we don't actually need to create separate parts anymore for machined and unmachined components. We can effectively just do that within the one file. Another useful function for this might be something with that's made out of sheet metal. So many of you would be familiar with the sheet metal functionality within Inventor, and we can set up multiple bend operations. So we can set up numerous functionalities for that as well. Things like weldments and weld preparations for other machining operations that we might use as well. So product families, as you can see there, a bit like we've got with our family of bolts, we could actually set that up now using model states completely. So yeah, that's another little tool that we could use, a bit like the way that you would be using bolts, nuts and washers for the content center. We can have a very similar functionality now within the model states scenario. Another inside of an assembly, for instance, we could have multiple positions. So again, we do still have the positional representations and the those options within the view representations in our model. It's just the level of details that have changed. So we've got quite a number of different options there, and I'll go through this in a moment with you. But yeah, level of complexion for each stage of as your design gets assembled as well. So we can have a level of completion that we could be using there. Simplification levels for removing intellectual property, or high levels of detail before we export that out for large assembly management would also be a benefit there. And also iProperty information. So if you're using some custom iProperties or the standard iProperties with Inventor, we can set those up within our model states as well. So I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough of that. And this little video here shows us the functionality of how that this actually behaves. So basically with this, we've got the this functionality. As you can see in the browser there, we've got numerous options for working with the model state. As you can see in the browser, the options there under for a part file. This is, you can see there that we've got this model states function, and effectively with this particular functionality, we can set up part files and capture our design intent. Like I said, show flexible components, families of parts, or simplified versions of our design without creating additional files on the disk. Each model state has its own iProperties, allowing you to create families or variations of parts with unique metadata, such as material or stock number or things like that. So model states in a part file can be used to capture the design of your part as it progresses through the manufacturing process. In this example, we can see a cast part, which is then got machine versions, both of which have been modeled in the same part file. So before programming the part for machining, we can create a new model state and suppress only those features which aren't required for CNC machining. We often need a simplified version of our design for simulation as well. So we can simply coordinate that and protect our intellectual property over that as well. So simplified representations with model states are ideal when preparing our model for simulation, while retaining design intent and without creating additional derived files. In the past, we've had to use automation tools to help simplify designs retrospectively. Model states can allow us the new possibility of building components that have been simplified and have those simplified representations built into the part. So any dimensional changes made to the design will automatically update all relevant model states, and all the design intent is within that one file. So model states are fully supported in the Inventor API and iLogic. So if you're using iLogic, you'll be pleased to hear that to help us automate our design workflows. So really that new functionality helps us streamline our modeling and automation tasks within the one part file. So quite an improvement there. I think you'll agree there's quite a lot of benefit in that functionality, particularly just within the part file. But if we're looking at the assembly side of things, again, we can have assembly configuration, weldment preparations, and alternate assembly positions also within the model state. So this is another functionality that improves the flexibility, I guess, where previously we would have had to set this up as separate files. Now we can do this, within the Inventor model states. Another really important thing for those of you that are moving from 2021 or 2020 into the 2022 space is that if you're using level of detail currently, and I know many of you are, those level of details are by default migrated to model states. So please be aware of that. If it's certainly worth noting that you won't lose your previous level of detail configurations. Basically, when you migrate across from the older releases to the 2022, they will come into the model state space. So certainly worth knowing about this before you are faced with the challenge of a new functionality. So a couple of points on that. When you open a legacy assembly that contains level of details with the following three system-defined level of details, so the all components suppressed, all parts suppressed, and all content center suppressed are actually removed. So you might remember those three system-generated level of details. For those of you that are familiar with that, they are actually deleted out of the system. And any that you've created yourself are, as I said, migrated across to model states. So the level of detail option is no longer there. And yeah, you'll notice that in a little video that I'll play in a second. So the master level of detail and all of those user-defined level of details, including any substitutes, are retained and converted to model states in the 2022 version. So when you migrate across, you will notice that change in your 2022 option. So there is a design view option where we can hide content center components. That is a default one as well, a bit like that legacy all content center suppressed level of detail. So I'm just going to step you through a bit of an explanation of this in another little presentation video. So assembly model states in Inventor 22 provide new workflows to help us manage multiple representations of our design. Model states can be used in the assembly models to capture our design intent, showing multiple manufacturing stages, assembly configurations, or simplified versions of our design inside the one assembly file. In this example, we can see a new model state being created. The model state records the suppression state of components and remembers model state settings of subcomponents. So multiple families or variations of designs can quickly be created using a spreadsheet as well. So we can link this to Excel and set that up, as you can see there. So each model state captures unique part properties and quantities to track the number of items required in your bill of materials and your parts lists. In addition, we can set up instance properties that can be allocated to individual components, allowing each instance of a component to be tagged with information that's unique to the component. Instance properties can also be used to identify the location or order of fit for your assembly, or to add unique service numbers to each component. We often need a simplified version of our designs for simulation. So again, coordination of simplified models they protect our intellectual property. So in the past, we've had to use automation tools to help simplify designs retrospectively. Model states allow a new possibility of building components that have simplified representations built in them from the start. So model states are fully supported by the Inventor API and iLogic to help us automate our design. Simplified models can also be used to create drawings of large-scale assemblies where small details may not be required. So yeah, we can see quite a beneficial streamlining functionality of working within those assembly files. So I think you'll find a lot of benefit here with this new functionality. It's certainly they've replaced that level of detail, which some people found a little challenging to use, but like I said, a new functionality completely. Now, with regard to shrink wrap, and simplify, which were tools that I know many of you have used as well, especially if you're working on large assemblies, you'll notice that there's quite a lot of functionality changes here in the sense of being able to simplify your model and perhaps take out some of that unnecessary background information or items again that are perhaps too small to represent in a large assembly. So there's another bunch of options there. Basically, again, these are included into the model state functionality. Okay, so a couple of things with regard to the interoperability side of Inventor for 2022. Again, we've got simplified commands to produce a Revit model. Most of you would have been aware of the complexity of working with very detailed Inventor models inside of Revit and the need to perhaps reduce that level of intelligence. But now we've got an option to simplify that using this simplify command. So we've got an option there when we create this to simplify the Revit model, or a model that's coming from Inventor and going into Revit, and then we can use that as a connected item. So there's a link to that original model is retained, and obviously the associativity functions correctly within those items. So yeah, very, very handy functionality again. Now I mentioned there a link as well to Fusion 360. So Autodesk have added a new function there with a send to Fusion button. So you'll notice inside the Inventor menus, there's a new button there to send this to Fusion. So if you're doing some CNC machining or 3D printing or generative design inside of Fusion, you've now got a direct link to do that. If you haven't looked at Fusion, I would encourage you to do so. It's a really nice little platform that's yeah, quite a neat little tool. I refer to it as Inventor's little brother. It's got a lot of interesting functionality there that yeah, we can use and utilize for working with our Inventor models. So some very, very powerful functionality, especially in the space of the additive manufacturing and also for the CNC side of things, if you don't have a license of Inventor Cam or some of those other HSM type tools that you may need to use. So yeah, another new little button there to be able to allow us to send to Fusion. With regard to the some functionality for general dimensioning or geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. We've got some enhancements here in the sense that the Inventor situation now supports QIF3, which is added to the 2022 release. So yeah, a benefit there for working with that particular functionality. We can also export neutral 3D CAD files with PMI data to go straight into JT format, which again might be helpful for some of you that are using GD&T. That's another very handy function there that's been included in the 2022 release. So again, as I mentioned, there's a nice linkage now to Revit. The Revit functionality within Inventor is, or the Revit interoperability is quite handy, and this has been increasing over the years. There's been a push to sort of move this forward. As you know, this started back in the 2018 version. But yeah, certainly in the 2022 version, we've got improved collaboration of BIM projects with the ability to save a native Rev project file from Inventor. So in this example, we can see that we've linked the Revit model into Inventor via AnyCAD, and we can use a reference while designing. Now our design's complete, we can share that model for our design and Revit user coordination. By saving our Inventor assembly as a Revit model, we'd like to remove manufacturing detail from the design, which is unnecessary, obviously, for the display. But for coordination on a BIM project, a newly laid out simplification dialog helps us automatically remove components from our design by feature size. So we can remove those by size or by range, and we can set that up as per our criteria requirements. So parts and features that are required for coordination can be preserved to ensure that they're not unintentionally removed. By setting the output type to a Revit project or RVT file, additional settings are revealed which allow us to structure our output. Each top-level component option allows us to export a model in which the top-level Inventor assembly can be scheduled and tagged inside Revit to completely strip your manufacturing model of all detail and envelopes. This can automatically be added, which can replace components or sub-assemblies with a bounding box to simplify that down further. So quite a lot of preset options there with regard to that. So quite a number of really beneficial little tools there for working within Revit and linking that to our design process. So yeah, very, very handy little tools there. I think you'll agree that linking that straight into Revit is a very beneficial thing. So we can we can take that update of the Inventor model. So again, this is fully associative, and we can use that preset file to export the model again and to update that in Revit or coordinate it with a BIM 360 situation. So Inventor 22 continues to improve and unique functions, helping manufacturers to construction professionals to collaborate using those shared models. So yeah, some great benefit there for people that are using the interactivity. As you can see here, we've got quite a number of productivity enhancements. Again, these have been growing over the years, and we're seeing some real benefits, especially with the AnyCAD functionality and many of the other aspects of that particular function. This year is no exception to the work that's already been done in the previous releases. The improvements to graphics technology and hardware and utilization of your system resources, etc., has seen some good improvements over this new release. So for those of you who are enjoying editing your parts while working in the assembly, you'll find several performance improvements here. We can edit sketches and visibility improvements as well. So our GPU, our graphics processing unit, is now better utilized for visual styles like displaying wireframe and silhouette edges. Opening and closing documents should be faster than ever so that you're able to get work done quicker and close your documents to get started on the next project. Now, a number of little enhancements here just to dig down a little into some of the more finer details. In the 2022 release, you'll notice a number of new dialogues. So previously the fillet dialog box, these have been changing over the last couple of releases, and we've got now a new dialog or some new functionality in the fillet dialog, which changes the way this behaves a little, in the sense of the little sub menu to the right of our properties panel for the fillets. So you will notice that when you start to use Inventor 2022 that the different fillet options are now in a little fly out tool palette type menu, which is quite a neat little enhancement. The fillet command itself has been sort of split into 3 options. So we did have those little buttons on the left of the original dialog, but now they're on the right hand side for constant, variable and setback type options. So yeah, quite a number of items there. Now, just a point here with regard to legacy fillets. So again, if you're opening a 2020 or 2021 fillet feature, those features will not change until you edit the fillet. So just maybe note that the change to the fillet feature in the browser will not update unless you go and edit the actual 2020 or 2021 or previous version fillet functionality. There's also some new options here with regard to quickly identifying under constraint components. So there's a new little button next to the each item, as you can see in the little graphic there next to the spindle part. We've got those square brackets with the little dot in it. What that indicates, a black dot indicates a fully constrained component. A circle, a gray circle, indicates a partially or under constrained item. So an item still with a degree of freedom left will be shown as a little circle. And also you can display different items there. So if you right click on the browser nodes, you can go in and see which items are not fully constrained or are under constrained. So last year, and many people were quite happy with this, we saw the change over to the dark theme. Again, I find this quite nice. It's much kinder on your eyes rather than looking at a white background all day, and many of us would have gone and changed the background color, but Autodesk have now switched this over completely, and you'll find quite a few new options with regard to the dark theme. And it's been implemented right across the system. So where previously your iLogic dialog box was still white background, it's now been changed to the dark theme. So yeah, quite nice on your eyes, much kinder if you're sitting in front of an Inventor screen for 6, 8 or 10 hours a day, dare I say it. Yeah, so some good functionalities there with the new dark theme. So quite handy that that's been changed over as well. In the drawing environment, we can now change the look of our shaded views. As I mentioned in our opening comments, we can use lighting styles from the 3D model inside of the actual drawing now. So when we make a change to that, we can set those lighting styles to be transmitted from the 2D or from the 3D model into our drawing environment. And as you can see there, we've got options for being able to visualize those lighting styles within a 2D drawing now. So if you've got a particular item that shows you the view in a slightly better light, if you can imagine, we can certainly do that by working with that as well. Okay, there's a new installer, as I mentioned again in our opening comments. Autodesk now allow us to build a deployment image. So for those of you that have got multiple users within your organization, you'll know the method of creating deployments in previous releases. Look, wasn't challenging, but it was just an interesting scenario that we had to go through and configure. We can now do this directly within your Autodesk account. So for those of you that are involved in deploying versions of Inventor and software out to your users, yeah, a number of new options there for working with that. And also we're going to, I'll just quickly list up a couple of other resources that we've got with regard to working with these new functionalities. So that sort of wraps up what I had hoped to go through today. Really the benefits of Inventor. Obviously, you'll see them once you start to use the software, and hopefully you'll find the options a good lot of benefit. Now, I've put quite a number of links here. I mentioned the Autodesk Ideas link. I might actually send this out in the chat as well. So in the Zoom chat, you should be able to see. I'll just send this out to everyone. So you've all received in the chat window there these links. So if you'd like to take a copy of that or whatever, or you can screen grab the page, I guess. But probably the key one, as I mentioned, is the this Autodesk Ideas page, which is certainly worth a look, because that's where you can vote on features to be included in the 2023 release, I guess, of Inventor. So if you've got an idea that you think would help Inventor become more productive or more useful in your particular situation. And yeah, I was only talking to a client yesterday who was quite keen to see the EDM options within that particular function. So yeah, quite a number of options with regard to yeah, putting ideas up for other people to vote on. So thanks very much for watching today. I will stay online and try and answer any questions that pop up. So feel free to pop your questions into the Zoom chat window. I can see a question or two popping up there already. So yeah, as I mentioned, thanks again for attending today's webinar. I hope what we've covered is valuable, and that you've been able to learn some new things, hopefully, and online for a few minutes and try and answer any questions there. If you need to get in touch with us, there's some information here with regard to contacting A2K. So feel free to send us an email at info@a2k.com.au, and we'd be more than happy to work with that. So I can see your question there, Shahid. Thanks for your question there about does model state functionality also function within Frame Generator? Yes, it will. So you'll see this across the board for the 2022 software. Like I said, level of details has been removed from the 2022 release and basically replaced with model states. But inside the model states, you've got extra functionality there as well. So yeah, like I said, feel free to shoot any questions through. I'll keep an eye on this chat for another few minutes. And thanks again for joining us today. I hope what we've presented has been valuable to you. And stay safe and well, everyone. Thanks again for joining in. Thanks for your question there, Brad, on the deployment process. What I can do, if you like, is send you some details on that. There's basically what you're doing inside the Autodesk account is if you select on a product, there's an option on the right-hand side where you can go in and create your deployment from there. So this is deployment images that are generally created and then deployed by SCCM or something like that. But basically within the Autodesk account, and Brad, thanks. I will certainly send you out a link on this. There's a lot of detail there with regard to how we create deployments. So more than happy to send you some information on that, and certainly the concept of deployments is can get a bit detailed, but I'll certainly send you through some information on that, Brad. So see a couple of other questions coming in here. Eugene, thanks for your question there. Do model states update automatically, unlike we've seen and used the representations? We need to pick other representation, go back to the previous to show the changes we've made. So there's quite a number of changes. I believe that has been rectified, Eugene. I know that was one of the discussion points when this came up. Again, I'm pretty confident that that does automatically change. Now, there is a number of settings, and you might have noticed in the little clip that I played, you've got options as to whether the settings apply to all of the levels of that model states. But yeah, certainly, yes, they should automatically update. Backwards compatibility is an interesting one, David. Thanks for your question there. Backwards compatibility is a bit of an interesting point. With 3D software, and I think you'll find nearly all 3D software does this, they won't generally let you open 2022 files in 2021. And obviously the reason is that the software changes over the years, and also Autodesk would like you to upgrade to the new version. But the concept is you can open Inventor 2022 files in 2021. However, they open almost like a derived part, if you're familiar with that function, David. It's a bit of an odd functionality, and you don't get the full editability or anything like that. Would be nice to see some backwards compatibility on that. So yes, I can certainly understand your pain. And look, it's a common thing with 3D CAD systems not to be backwards compatible. AutoCAD is one of the very few software that actually does go backwards. It's but certainly Inventor, because of the nature of the software, I think the concept is that if you want to do any editing on the 2022 part, you'll need to do that in the 2022 release. Greg, thanks for your question as well there. Any suggestions to get back to default options from previous versions? So if you want to set your application options that you've got as default, you can export them out. So if you go to your tools menu, application options in the 2021 version, so if you've still got your 2021 installed, go to the 2021 tools application options. In the bottom of that dialog, you'll find there's an option to export. So you can export out your 2021 defaults. And then when you come to loading up 2022, you can simply import that. So again, in the 2022 version, go to Tools Application Options. In the bottom of that dialog, you'll find this an import option. If you select import and select the XML file that you've saved out of your 2021 version, absolutely, your changes or your default settings, preferences, etc., for your application options will also come across to your 2022 version. Hope that answers your question there, Greg. Yeah, it's a very standard function. Eugene, I can see your question there. How about in the iLogic rules? There's an iLogic rule we had from 2019. It's not applicable or doesn't function in 2021. Again, I'd probably have to see the actual rule, Eugene. So if you'd like to email that through, I'll try and have a look at that for you. It will come down to what the rule is. For instance, if your rule included something like a level of detail that's been changed in 2022, I think you'll have to modify the rule to work with the model states functionality. So if it's a functionality that's been changed or modified between the releases, I don't believe it'll migrate across automatically. You'll need to update that functionality.